Hey everyone, Joe from Treadmill Heroes here. Wanted to give you guys a few tips on what to look for when buying a used piece of exercise equipment online from a private party. Today I'm going to talk mostly about treadmills in general. We'll do a different video on ellipticals and bikes. But there's a lot of used fitness equipment out there for sale these days. And we see it time and time again where customers end up buying something that they wish they hadn't, or they wish they would have known a little bit more before they went in and made a purchase out of somebody's garage or basement. So a couple things you need to ask yourself first. Number one is, what type of use are you going to be doing on the treadmill? Okay? Walking and running are two different things. So when you walk on a treadmill, it actually puts way more strain on the motor and some of the electronics because your feet are dragging on the belt and the deck and creating a lot more heat and friction, and heat and friction are what destroys a treadmill. So first things first, if you're thinking you're just going to be walking for 30 minutes or more on a treadmill daily, you're going to want to get yourself a good quality tread. So here's a couple questions you should ask yourself or ask the seller before making the purchase. One, is the company still around anymore? There's a lot of fitness equipment manufacturers that were here at one point and they're gone now. Is the company still around and are parts still available? So by simply getting the model and serial number off of the unit, which is usually down towards the bottom front here, usually located on treadmills, down towards the bottom front, just follow the power cord and you'll typically see a sticker on there. Find out if that company's still available, find out if you can still get parts. If you don't know, reach out to us. You can send us a message through Facebook or some of our other social media platforms and just find out, hey, is this company still around? Can you still get parts? If you can't get parts from the manufacturer, well, you can probably get parts through our sister company, fitnessgraveyard.com. But that's very important. Even if the thing looks in mint condition, looks like it's in really good shape, if you need a part, typically 30 minutes after you make the purchase and they aren't available, you're kind of in a bad spot. Other thing you need to look for is making sure that all functions on the treadmill work, right? Up here is what we call the console. And on top of the console, behind, back behind here is the circuit board, but up top here we call this the console overlay. These are all the buttons that make the treadmill work. You gotta make sure that not just the start button works and the stop button works, but you gotta make sure that all the other buttons work, because if one of these buttons is unresponsive, that's a sign that the overlay is going out. Because all these buttons are tied together with a really thin webbing underneath of here that basically sends commands through the treadmill. So what you want to do is just make sure that they all beep, that they all function. On a pacemaster, they're going to kind of make that cricket sound to let you know that, they're all working. And then finally the start button. Once you get the treadmill moving, and you start walking on it, you want to do what we like to call some people call it a stomp test, some people call it a stop test, but you want to make sure that if you put weight down on the belt doesn't slip. And in this case, it's nice and tight. You don't have to stomp down really hard, but what you want to do is kind of lean your weight forward a little bit and just make sure that the belt keeps moving when you put weight on it. If it stops or the belt feels like it's slipping or catching, that could be anything from a small problem for the belt and deck just needing to be lubricated and tightened up, or it could be a bigger problem with a weak motor or something else. And you might want to give us a call before you make that purchase. Open up the motor hood. Typically these are held on by 1 or 2 screws. You want to look inside of here and see how clean it is. You want to make sure that there's no, signs of a mouse living in here or wires chewed up or anything pinched. A lot of treadmills that we open up when we go into people's homes, it's really dusty and really dirty inside of here. And that's because when the belt moves, it creates a lot of static electricity and it will attract dust and hair and carpet fibers and all kinds of stuff into this motor housing. If it's super dirty in here, one, you know the treadmill's been used a lot, and also two, you know it hasn't been maintained on a regular basis. So that'll affect your buying decision. If it looks like this when you open it up, hey, that's good news. It's probably because they haven't used it all that much and doesn't have a lot of miles on it. If you show up to a house to buy a treadmill and it's already out in the garage, taken apart in 1,000 pieces, buyer beware. A lot of sellers will say, well, we moved here and we just decided we didn't have a spot for it. It worked before we moved it. That's the old car purchasing thing, right? It ran when we parked it over there in the weeds. Be very careful when making that purchase, and I would strongly encourage you not to. Moving a piece of exercise equipment can create a lot of damage, especially if you don't know what's going on. We see pinched wire harnesses, we see bad motor controllers, that circuit board that's down below that gets beat up and rattled from a move. And yeah, it very well may have ran just fine before it got taken out of the old home. But now that it's been taken apart, it's been moved once or twice, it's been thrown in the garage and slid around, I would not purchase a treadmill without being able to test it, no matter what the seller says. One misconception is about the warranty. The warranty does not transfer on a piece of exercise equipment. Yes, there are people that buy a treadmill, it sits in their house for a year, they used it once or twice, it just lost its luster and they don't use it anymore and they want to sell it. And they will say, well, there's still 3 years left on the warranty. Doesn't matter. That warranty will not transfer from one buyer to the next. Once you buy a used piece of equipment, the warranty stays with the original purchaser. So just keep that in mind when you make a purchase.